You're listening to 3 Minute Marketing, where we interview the world's top growth marketing leaders and distill their knowledge into actionable, bite-sized insights. Now here's your host, Chris Mechanic.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of 3 Minute Marketing. I'm your man, Chris Mechanic, here with Enrique Hoyos, who is the epitome of the type of guests we like here. Very deep T shaped marketer, kind of a unicorn, kind of a startup person. Just knows how to move the needle, knows how to generate traffic and conversions and revenue and lifetime value, and probably even some other things that I haven't even mentioned there. But Enrique, super excited to have you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Enrique, I should mention, is currently the head of growth at Pexels.com, which my understanding is kind of a new and interesting kind of stock photo site. You want to talk a little bit about what you guys are doing at Pexels?
Yeah, happy to. So it's not that new. I think it started 2016. I've been here for the past 2 years, but what it is a free photo and video library that is used by millions of people around the world to bring their projects, ideas, and stuff to life. So we have anything from marketers, designers, to non-for-profits, to like teachers that all go through Pexels and kind of find the photos, the videos that they can use to tell their stories, communicate their project. And it's all community-based. So like they all kind of rely on our community of contributors to come to Pexels, upload their photos, and be up to date. It's very interesting because it's not your average stocky photo, but it's real photographers, real people taking photos of real things. So you're going to see diversity, you're going to see localized content, which is what we're striving to do. Like, how do we make it the most real video and photo library that can exist for free?
Yep, that's awesome. Do you guys have a coin yet?
We do not have a coin. No.
I bet that's on the road.
There's been conversations for sure. But...
Cool. Well, let's jump right into it, Enrique. I'm really kind of in awe of your ability to grow businesses, to grow teams. As you go about hiring and as you build out your own skill set, what skill set or skill sets do you think are the most important for startup marketers as well as scale-up marketers?
Yeah, so this question takes me to like a lot of different places in my brain right away. So how about I walk you through kind of my thought process to get to the answer that I would probably give you, and hopefully it doesn't change as I'm like thinking through this again.
Okay.
But to start with, like, to me, you kind of look at the foundation of marketing and what it is, and that is like understanding your customer, understanding the problem that they have, how that plays a role in their life, and then that connection between that and how you solve that problem. That be it like your product, your service, whatever it is that you do. And to really do that well, you have to be at least moderately good at data analytics, or like understanding data, to understand that what is it that is happening. But then you have to really be good at combining that with qualitative data of like, why is it that that's happening? And that becomes the foundation of any strategy, that insight that you kind of know what you're selling, know what you're telling people. And at the end of the day, the objective for marketing is to sell people into what, like how do you solve that person's problem the easiest way? But with the insight that you get there, it doesn't give you action. It doesn't give you like that movement that you want to have. And that's when you start analyzing marketing into what are the things that I can be doing with that. And you have like product marketing, you have like SEO, you have a lot of different things, avenues that you can go to. But the reality is that not every company is going to be the same. And the answer to every problem is not going to be the same. So like, to me, the most important skill, assuming that you know marketing, is not a strong marketing skill, but it's like a soft skill, which is adaptability. Because one of the things that I see the most is that first-time marketers, and I had the same experience, you kind of join a startup, maybe coming from an agency like I did or something of that. You have a deep understanding on something and a little bit of that general marketing. But you always kind of try to start with whatever you're deepest at. But for example, for me, it was ads. It doesn't mean that that is the most important skill set that you need to use for that startup. So you really have to take the step back and look at it strategically. What are the elements for the startup? What's the context of like the marketing piece that's already working, the product that's already working, to really understand what's the lever of growth that you can really turn a needle on and actually start getting growth, rather than focusing on like, hey, what am I good at? Is more like, hey, what fits the situation right now? And how can I make that work? So adaptability, still my number one answer. then again, assuming that you still have to have the knowledge of what marketing is and that T-shaped marketing style that we kind of mentioned before.
So real quick, we have 10 seconds, but how do you gauge for adaptability, like in an interview?
I think just asking them questions of what they've done in the past and how they approach a problem, like how did you tackle a problem before? And if they kind of tell me like, hey, I went right into like what was happening rather than like proposing a solution and a bunch of like brainstorm ideas, is understanding the problem as the baseline of anything that you do, whether it's in product or in marketing.
Dig it. I dig it. So that's the time that we've got, but adaptability, I agree, is huge. And I really like this concept of, don't just come into a scenario thinking of yourself as an SEO, survey the field, think a little bit more broadly, and think instead, basically, what are the tools that I have and how can I most effectively move this needle, SEO or not? There's a saying basically like, when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
100%. Yeah. And it's a big problem because like a lot of the time, like, for example, I've seen people who I do a little bit of like consulting or like help founders and marketers, and like they start with SEO, but like I kind of started looking at the data of the funnel and like inbound, they haven't figured out. I'm like, why are you putting more effort into like getting more people when maybe necessarily like the other side of the funnel where like the retention activation is not working properly? So like focus wherever is the growth is going to give you the most value rather than just keep throwing the same thing at it. It also happens a lot with ads, I think, because a lot of the people I came from ads, so like it's a very easy way to measure ROI versus a lot of other different things. So like you see numbers, you're like, okay, like I can pop more money into this, is going to give more ROI, but really not focusing on like, hey, what are the next steps that this person has to go through in their funnel to like be a good customer, like increase the lifetime value, like really increase the value that they get out of your product or service.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of times it's easier to double the conversion rate than to double the traffic. That's for sure.
Yeah. Cheaper.
Cool. Well, let's wrap here because we want to keep this nice and short. But if you enjoyed this, Enrique and I will continue having a conversation that's available somewhere around where you're watching here, either via link or there should be an embedded video somewhere. I'm excited. I've got a couple other interesting things to talk to you about, Enrique, which is the way that large brands often shoot themselves in the foot by doing basically exactly the opposite of what you're saying, which we'll get into and unpack. But Enrique, do you want to let everybody know sort of where they can find out more about you and or Pexels?
Yeah, Pexels, just go to pexels.com and you will find over 3 million photos and videos that are free for you to use. As for myself, LinkedIn's probably right now the best place to find me. I'm also at Twitter at that Enrique H. That's my handle. Trying to get better at Twitter right now. So like, if you want to connect there, I'm happy to follow you back and have a conversation.
Nice. Always learn. I dig it. Okay. We'll stay on the line for 1 second, Enrique. We're going to wrap here. If you guys like this, please drop us a like or a comment. That helps us find more awesome marketers like you. And until next time, we will be in touch. I will say, so I just got off the phone with Amazon, who's a large client of ours. We work with various teams of theirs, and they're really, really good. They're really, really smart, and they're really, really focused, and they're willing to invest. They want to be innovative. They're actually they're a challenging but rewarding client in that they're like constantly pushing the envelope. But this particular call that I had just now was SEO. It was like basically, so I'm looking at their particular scenario, and they gave me one tool set to work with, which is SEO. And again in my mind, I'm like, well, if we pivoted just a little bit and we looked at UX, or we looked at conversion, or we looked at sell-throughs, or we looked at other things, like there's potentially a lot more juice to squeeze. But it was an SEO focused initiative, which I think if you're very large, you kind of have to do that to some extent. Most large companies, like they'll have a marketing team, and you'll have your organic people, your paid media team, your analytics, and your BI teams. But I'm wondering if there's any page out of the startup books that large brands might be able to take to, basically add more of that startup like thinking into their existing structures, which are somewhat regimented.
Yeah. They're very siloed, or end up being siloed just because like the size of the company and the size of the team. To me, it's a little bit of two things. One, I think that once companies become too big, sometimes there's a lot of like tactics that come bottom up that sometimes come without an objective. It's like, hey, what cool thing can we do to like do something different? Not necessarily like focus on like, hey, here's the objective for the quarter, or here's the objective for the year. How could each team break it further down into that? So making sure that there's that alignment on the top, and that strategy comes from, hey, like here are the objectives of the company for the quarter. Here are the reasons why. I think that one of the things that companies don't communicate enough is the why you're choosing those objectives. Because people like, I mean, especially like social media, those are the ones who like, for example, like they live the day-to-day with a customer. They're like, why are we doing certain things when like I'm seeing these other problems? So like explaining to people like in the bottom of like the pyramid, like why things are happening, it also helps you come up with better ideas and strategize together towards one direction of the company. I don't remember who says this, but like giving people guardrails for innovation and creativity is where the most value you can get out. If you tell people like, hey, go be creative, it's very hard without like a specific objective in mind. So for me, directional from leadership and communicating the why things should be happening for those teams to understand it better.
Yep. So what's one of your biggest win stories so far at Pexels? I know that you haven't been there for too long.
Yeah. So one of the things we at the end of the day are a marketplace, because we have the people who come download photos, even though it's free, like that's one segment, one target like user for Pexels. And then we have the other side, which is the contributors and the photographers. So we kind of end up having two marketing strategies, and I have to split my brain into two things. But one of the most exciting and I think value projects we've done was a bit of product and a bit of marketing, where we noticed, and I think this was last year, 2020, we started noticing that like when people were searching certain keywords, like for example, couple, it was always heterosexual couples and white couples that was showing up. It's not particularly like, hey, Pexels wanted to show this, is more like the way that things are tagged and the way the algorithm works. So like if people keep clicking on those things, those are the things that are going to go up higher. So we noticed like around that there wasn't much diversity in those terms unless you added like gay couple or LGBTQ plus couple or interracial couple. Like those things never showed up. So we fixed the product to actually start displaying more of that diversity that we have in the library. Like we do have that exists. There's photographers who are passionate about this and showcasing it to the world, and that's why they uploaded Pexels. So making that product shift was quite interesting, because it became like a product, but also like, hey, how do we do this into a PR stunt? So we have Forbes, we have Vogue magazine, we had like a lot of like this big media publications start speaking about like algorithms and how like no other stock photo platform was doing this, and we were. So it was cool to see it that way in a brand perspective. Not something that I've worked much in the past. Like I'm very much a numbers guy, so like brand's a harder one for me to think about. But also seeing the download rate of those photos and the visibility of those photos, like it 10x just from like being able to display them. Because people, it's not that they don't want to have them, they're just not thinking about like, hey, I could use this photo, this fits my brand better.
Right.
So just giving those visibility to those kind of photos was incredibly powerful for the product, but also for the marketing piece. Hard to measure results for us in terms of that campaign. Like we can measure based on like media hits and like how that did. But when you look at our traffic, like in the past, I believe in the beginning of this year, we passed 30 million sessions per month. So any kind of like an increase in traffic, like it's very subtle. You can't see like even a 1% is like pretty high, but you don't see that in the traffic right away. So we see the trend keep going up and we keep improving it, but it's hard to measure those campaigns in terms of like how much more traffic this specifically drove.
Yep. Yeah. And I remember Udi Ledergor from Gong CMO came, and one of his top tips was like, don't obsess over measurability. You know, as marketers, especially now, we're very obsessed, but he tells a story about how they took out a Super Bowl commercial at a large expense, knowing that it was basically completely unmeasurable. But then once that ran, they started, you know, their reps started getting calls. they were saying, hey, the Super Bowl, like anecdotally it was working, they were closing deals, but it didn't show up in CRM as that. And so that could very well, like if you got backlinks from Forbes and from, those brands that you were just naming, you may never in a million years be able to tie that, back to this individual thing, but it helps you rank on all of your other non-brand terms that you're battling for in the SERPs. So
Yeah.
I think that's a really good example. What does your team look like currently? Are you divisionalized, like your organic search people and your paid people?
So we don't have the paid. I end up doing the paid. I wear a lot of the different hats still at the company. I have an SEO person who kind of like, it's a very technical SEO perspective. Like it's a search engine that like tries to serve into another search engine. Like you can search for anything in Pexels and be found on Google. So he has a very technical and job and background. That's kind of him, and then myself with like campaigns throughout the year. That's kind of the focus on the consumer side, like people who download, so marketers, designers, all of those kind of work on that way. And then the majority of the team is focused on the contributors and building a community. So I work alongside with the head of community on building that together. So I kind of focus on the email marketing, the notifications, how does the product marketing communicate to them? And then the community and his team kind of takes it into like, hey, how do we localize this with community events? With like, for example, we just launched like a couple countries where we didn't have photos from there before. So like now we launched Russia, and you kind of have like a perspective of like what Russia can look like. But now that we have a community of over like 10,000 photographers there, you actually get like the real Russia, like from the lens of photographers. And all of that, I mean, one of the things, I don't know if you know this, but Pexels is owned by Canva. So all of these like photography goes into Canva. So like all the localized templates and things that Canva has gets the advantage of seeing true localized content from our team. I think I jumped from like what my team looked like to like strategy, but pretty much that. And then under myself, there's social media, and we have a lot of content creation. So we try to create a lot of content that is for photographers and videographers, both in the educational, but also like kind of the entertainment area.
Interesting. So quick and random question. As you go about reading and building your own skill sets and trying new stuff, do you tend to think, let me get better at things I'm already good at more so? Or do you tend to spend most of your time like fumbling around in new topics that you don't really know that well yet?
A little bit of both. I think of myself as a generalist. Like I think strategy above tactics. Like I want to understand the whole picture. And then if something I don't understand, I hire for it, or I get someone to consult with me or help me with that. But I do like to know things. Like, for example, SEO is not my thing, but I'm always reading and like keeping up to date on like SEO things that are happening. So when I have conversations, they're smart. But one of the things that educational wise, that I love doing the most, maybe it's weird, I either reread or re-listen to books that I enjoy. So I probably have like 5 books that like whenever I'm thinking strategy or whenever I'm thinking like messaging, I go back to and like listen to them on like Audible at like 2 times the speed, and like kind of like hear like, okay, like here's things that like made me think before. Like I know they spark ideas. So I use books a lot for that purpose of like, hey, re-spark an idea of like, I know this book helped me with this, and I go back to that a lot. So I try to reinforce what I know quite a lot.
That's an interesting technique, and a good one too, because I've probably forgotten more than like a new marketer would know. And in interviewing many CMOs, I'm amazed at how many of them really dwell on mastering the basics, and like not necessarily always going shiny new object syndrome, but more of this idea of drumbeat block and tackle activities. If you do them and you do them well, and increasingly better over time, then you see performance. And I've seen that in my own. What are your top 5 books? You got to tell us.
I have some of them right here. Obviously Awesome by April Dunford. It's positioning like at its finest. Hack and Growth is one that I really enjoy, by Sean Ellis and Morgan Brown. I'm kind of looking at them, have some of them here. Competing Against Luck. I don't know if this one's it's a bit like hidden gem, I think, but it's all about jobs to be done theory. I'm going to butcher the name, but Christensen or something like that. Really good book if you want to get into like understanding customers. And the psychology books I really like, Influence and Predictably Irrational. I feel like I have a couple more, but those are kind of like the ones that come up to mind right away.
That's awesome. What else? What other info do you consume? Do you have any like go-to podcasts or go-to like newsletters or anything that you swear by?
I'm getting better at Twitter. I find Twitter is becoming quite a good source of information. There's a newsletter that I follow by Foundation, which is an agency, Foundation Inc. It's a content marketing agency. They do super deep dives on what companies have done, like marketing wise. So like it's like 10, 12 minute like reads, or like even longer, of like real pure like a strategy and execution and how it worked. So it's really good because like it's very deep versus like fluffy kind of articles. But honestly, lately I haven't been the best at it. I just became a dad, and all I read and listen to are kids' books these days. So
Yeah,
I try to get back to my habits of reading and listening to podcasts and stuff.
oh, that's awesome. How old is your kid?
2 months.
Oh,
2 months.
wow. So you're brand new.
Brand new. Yeah, just barely getting some sleep these days. So
All right. Well, on that note, I'll be sensitive to your time. We can go ahead and wrap here so you can take a little cat nap. But I really, really enjoyed having you on here. And I think that the concept of adaptability is a really strong, a really good thing to look for in marketers. And I also think there's something to be said, or something to maybe as a thought experiment, of how can we apply that agile, nimble, adaptable sort of a framework in a larger marketing org. I think that would be really valuable if somebody could crack that nut.
Yeah, 100%. It has also been a pleasure, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah. And for everyone still listening right now, please go check out Pexels, and also check out Enrique. His Twitter handle is, what'd you say? That Enrique
That
H?
Enrique H. Yeah.
All right.
It's it's complex having a Spanish name and last name. I mean, Enrique people get. They're like, oh, Enrique Iglesias. It's a joke you get every time.
Right.
But the rest is complicated.
Well, I like that. That Enrique H. Well, I'll definitely check you out. I'll definitely follow you on Twitter, and I'll go check out Pexels, and I will probably just search for couples and preview that results page. But thank you very much, Enrique. You enjoy the rest of the day, and don't be a stranger.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you very much. It was a great interview.
Awesome, man. Thank you.